As a psychotherapist, I'm part of so many therapy sessions. Some children are told you're bright, you're going to become a scientist, and some children are told you're a loser, you're going to end up nowhere. If I believe I am not likely to get any love, even if someone expresses love, I might say, well, you love me less than others, so I'm not happy with your love. Our decisions are not available to our conscious memory. It impacts almost every aspect of your adult life. I can enter the world trusting that the world is a safe place, and if I meet a stranger, it's easy for me to trust that person. An injunction is transgenerational communication, where a parent's unresolved issue is handed out. If a parent carries shame about their own inadequacy, they will want their child to come first so that their own inadequacy can be fulfilled by the child shining. The succeed is a very external success. It's very sad that the world puts pressure on people to look strong and put together and in control all the time.
Hello and welcome to the Miraculous Being series. I'm your host and self-mastery coach Shweta Shivraman, and this is a show where we discover, learn and implement lessons from others' life journeys, others who I believe epitomize miraculous in its truest spirit. Individuals who live life to the fullest, who worked hard on themselves to reach where they are and are passionate in what they do. Today's speaker is Aruna Gopakumar. She is the founder of the School of You. She had founded Navgati in 1999, and today it is a boutique leadership development firm known for its creative and diverse offerings. Aruna is a teaching and supervising transactional analyst in the field of psychotherapy. She is the current president of SATA, the South Asian Association of Transactional Analysts. She is an MCC level coach, passionate about the intersection of psychodrama, autobiographical narratives, and myth making for personal and collective healing. She has authored the Penguin published book, And How Do You Feel About That, with Yashodhara Lal. Today, we are speaking with Aruna on life scripts, on how some unconscious narratives shape our reality. I'm really curious and excited for our conversation today, and I hope you are too. Hi Aruna, welcome to the Miraculous Beings show. It's such an honor to have you here.
Thank you, Shweta. It's an honor to be here. Yeah.
Lovely. So I know we have a very interesting topic in mind for our conversation today. But maybe before we jump into that, we would love to hear your journey and maybe, what were some pivotal points in your self-transformation journey that brought you where you are today?
How does one answer that? I think as a psychotherapist, I'm part of so many therapy sessions. So each of these I feel holds space for personal transformation. But if I were to look at life events, they've been, I think following my heart, recognizing that there's always space to do work that you like and that there is a market that responds to that. It's possible to build businesses that make the world a better place. And that there is the role of emotions and self-worth in almost every aspect of our lives. I think an understanding of that and how at the heart, how we bring our histories into any decision in the here and now has really been quite an amazing understanding for me as a psychotherapist, as a working professional, as a mother. So that's what I would say. So I'm assuming you're not asking for a professional history, but what has stands out for me as significant learning, and that understanding that sometimes we ask ourselves deep questions in moments of loss, in moments of conflict. That nothing is really bad news. Anything that happens is a way to understand yourself. So these are some things that stand out for me as you ask this question. It's a very tough question.
Yeah, I can imagine, but thank you for sharing that, right? And I love how you share that almost every conversation and the work you do is bringing out something new to light.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And you also touched upon a bit about how our historical narratives play out in our decision making in our here and now today. And I understand
Yes.
that's a lot to do with our topic for today as well, which is around life
Yes.
scripts. Can you set a context?
Yes.
Say, if someone in the audience has never heard that term before, what does it mean and how does it
Yeah,
apply in our daily lives?
sure, sure. So the term life script is from transactional analysis, which was created by a psychiatrist called Dr. Eric Berne. And he chose terms that were evocative and picture building, that were easily understood by people at large. So the word script is typically associated with movies and plays where the story is written before the play is produced, and it has a clear beginning, middle, and end. So everything is plays out as per a pre-decided plan, and he chose that as an apt metaphor for life scripts. So, and people find it quite puzzling. They're saying that, well, doesn't our script unfold every day? Isn't it changing minute to minute? Of course it is. But there are aspects that we, as infants, uh, non verbally may conclude about who we are, what our place in the world is, what the world is, what our relative power is in relationships, what's available to us, what's not available to us. Even attributions are used for us. Some children are told you're bright, you're going to become a scientist, and some children are told you're a loser, you're going to end up nowhere. How we make meaning of these attributions, sometimes we give them a lot of weight. Yeah, and some of these are buried so deeply in our psyche that we don't even realize that these are internalizations or meaning making of our early experiences that we hold to be here and now reality. And once we have some strong beliefs about ourselves, they start functioning as self fulfilling prophecies. And this is so that's what Byrne means when he says that it'll play out as per a pre decided plan. So if I believe I am not likely to get any love, and I believe that as a child, quite often as an adult, I will act in ways that I push away love, or I infer actions of people in a way that reinforces my belief that I'm not lovable. So even if someone expresses love, I might say, well, you love me less than others, so I'm not happy with your love. So that's how I move towards what I believe is my truth. And that's what we mean by life scripts.
Wow,
Yeah.
thank you so much for sharing that. And um, it almost seems like a predetermined script, right? That we have unconsciously written for ourselves with whatever
Yeah.
faculties we had at that time to understand life around us. And
Absolutely. It's
Little child with the intelligence and resources available to a little child whose thinking is quite grandiose.
yeah.
correct, correct, and almost like fantasical at some points, right? It's I remember us discussing how it is almost all or nothing, right? It's really good or it's really ugly, and
Yeah.
exaggerated versions of what we understand and infer from our environment.
Yes.
And given that we are, today in a world that is very determined by ROI, right? I'm
Yeah.
sure people who are listening to this would be wondering, saying that, hey, if I'm just an ordinary, leader in a corporate, or not someone
Yeah.
who's probably interested in psychology as a field, how does this impact me in my personal or professional journey? How would you say that this working on your life scripts actually helps leaders or others in their respective professions?
It impacts almost every aspect of your adult life. Yeah. So, for instance, if a child was not given unconditional acceptance, if a child was told, if a child got 97 marks, say, and the child was told, where are the 3 marks? The child might conclude that I have worth only if I get 100. Now, if that's the message that was repeatedly given, so as a leader, I will only do things where I can be at 100. So I might not take risks. I might be very hard on myself if I fail. So I may experience an imposter syndrome at the workplace, even though I'm doing well, because it's not perfect as per my internal standards. I may judge myself harshly. I may also set high standards for my people. I may turn out to be a very critical leader. Yeah, people may not feel appreciated or seen for what they do. They may be seen for the mistakes they make. So these are very simple ways. If I've been punished as a child, if there were no rules in my house, and any time an adult can blame me for something that goes wrong, as an adult, I'm very vigilant all the time. And if a boss or a customer says, "Shall we have a meeting?" I can move into panic and say, "Oh, has something gone wrong? Has there been a catastrophe?" I can feel very different in workplaces. I may feel that others are closer uh, uh, if I've grown up in an environment where the only way I got love was by taking responsibility, or maybe the child concluded, then I may be the most responsible person. So I might take the work that nobody else is interested in, work longer than most people. So you can see that our scripts impact our choices on an everyday basis. And the key thing about scripts is it's unconscious. This was made by a child without the aware decision making that we think we do in adult life. It's a very unconscious, intuitive shrinking or over adapting that we continue to do in adult life. Our decisions are not available to our conscious memory. At that time, it looks like that's the way. That's who I am. That's the way I react. Yeah. So yeah, it's very relevant.
Yeah, almost all aspects of how we show up in our
Yes.
daily life, right? In
Yes.
terms of what choices we make, what words we use, how we choose to respond to life situations. Almost everything seems to be linked to what we learned in our early years of life. And
Absolutely. Absolutely.
that to
Yeah.
me feels powerful and scary all at once, right? Because you think you're in control as an adult,
Yeah.
so-called functional adult,
Yeah.
but so much of our genesis is from that psyche that we are probably not aware of.
I want to say that not all aspects of the life script are limiting. Yeah, because the life script is the frame we develop to survive in this world. And many aspects could be very helpful also. So we need a frame like that to live our life. Yeah.
Got
So
it.
some aspects of, yeah, so, but many are outside awareness. And there are several outside awareness that actually limit us. And it's useful to be aware of it.
Got
Yeah.
it. And I'm
Yeah.
curious, what would be an example of a positive or a uplifting life script frame?
So, for instance, people are trustworthy. If I grew up in my childhood, if I had a need, and the adults around me treated me as important and attended to that need in ethical ways, if people model to me how power is shared, I can grow up with that, and I can enter the world trusting that the world is a safe place. And if I meet a stranger, it's easy for me to trust that person. And that would be a positive life script. If I have a secure base, that's a positive life script. Yeah.
Got it. Got it. So it doesn't necessarily have to be limiting. And I like what you shared about how we need that to function in the
Yes.
world. It just
Yes.
makes life easier, I guess, for us
Mm.
to
Yeah.
navigate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're constantly observing what's going on,
Yeah.
not just how people are with us, but also how they are with each other. So, for instance, if a child has not witnessed a harmonious marriage, may carry the script that marriages are conflict ridden. Yeah, and there's no, sometimes people don't have anyone who models self love or aging well. So they grow up feeling very scared of aging because no one in their adult life has modeled aging well. Yeah, so we need models as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How wonderful. And I have the book you co authored with Yashodhara here as well. And how do you feel about that? I think for listeners who have not probably read this book, it has a wonderful, I think, 50 collection of stories in the therapy room.
Yeah.
And I think I love how each story brings out a different aspects of psychology, and I've picked out a few from our favorites and that are also linked to this topic. I think the first one that I read was the Laddus and Love, right, where the protagonist has a distorted relationship with food because of a very strong don't from her
Yes.
childhood.
Yes.
How do these injunctions play out as in adults at, say, workplaces or relationships, and how can we probably work with them?
So, in an injunction in transactional analysis, we say is a very powerful prohibition. An injunction is really a transgenerational communication where a parent's unresolved issue is handed out in an unconscious way for a child to carry. So, for instance, if a parent carries shame about their own inadequacy, they will want their child to come first so that their own inadequacy can be fulfilled by the child shining. Yeah. So, then the message to the child is don't be you, be who I want you to be. So the message will always be you can do more, you can achieve so much more. It comes like that in very well-meaning ways, but we don't know how the child is interpreting it. The child is a very active agent in script formation, and the child might internalize, well, I won't get love if I am myself. So the message that the child internalizes is don't be you. And therefore this adult in injunctions with this adult will always feel inadequate, feel they have to do more, be more, constantly comparing themselves to others. That's how it plays out. And sometimes children, the story that you referred to, Laddus and Love, this child was not allowed to, was shamed a lot for wanting sweets and punished by withholding food. So this child was extremely angry. And this anger became so we say rebellion is also, it feels like it's an autonomous script, which is I won't do what you want me to do. But actually, it is also very much a restrictive script because it's not, I'm not deciding living my life based on what I want, but I won't give you what you want. And that can become a script. So this child really has an eating disorder because there's so much anger towards mother. Yeah, so there's a very difficult relationship with food. So overeats because mother never approved of it. So the rebellion then becomes a script.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know whenever I hear this, I often wonder, given how deeply wired these emotions and these behavioral patterns are, is
Yeah.
it even, is it possible to change our scripts? And if yes, where does one actually begin that journey of healing?
I think tools like transactional analysis are created to generate this awareness in people. But I think it just reflection is a good starting place. Awareness of own repeating patterns, sitting with oneself and asking questions: What am I feeling? Why am I feeling this? Why is it important to me? Working on understanding emotions, stepping into vulnerability, discussing internal worlds with a supportive listener. All of these are ways to start.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so the key is awareness. The starting place is always awareness.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And you make it sound almost easy, though I know it's not.
It's not easy but not difficult also. It is because the life script consists of 1,000 decisions that we have made over our childhood. We keep discovering aspects of ourselves over several years. So it's
Yeah.
not well, it's fixed for life now. I've got. So as we uncover our script, we'll find layers of meaning that we've made. We have to. So we also push away emotions. So if a child is, for instance, say, physically punished, uh, and then or laughed at alongside, a child may decide to say, oh, I'm not affected. Yeah, and the child may actually delude themselves itself. I don't care. But there's rage and there's fear and there's shame that's buried deep. Now, unless we have an opportunity to visit those feelings and be contained in the huge emotional churn, it'll continue to stay within us. And yeah, so that those aspects we need sometimes someone who holds us in the process. Doing it alone can be difficult sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. And I feel like almost our world is set up in a way that even without being in touch with our emotions, we can succeed in the external world, right? Because we
Yeah.
can, like, I remember, I think the first time I probably got in touch with my emotions was only after I stepped out of the corporate and all those insecurities surfaced and I had time to
Yeah.
look at each of them, right? Because otherwise, you're so busy, it's easy to just get caught up in
Yeah.
one thing after the next. But I
Yeah.
think having someone to do this work with is also helpful. So we're not
Yeah.
alone.
Yeah.
The succeed is a very external success, because I am so aware in my work as a coach in the corporate world, or even as a therapist. People are so in high positions in the corporate world, yeah, but we just have to scratch the surface, and they come into the safe space in the therapy room, their own self doubts and sorrows and grief and inadequacies just come tumbling out. It's very sad that the world puts pressure on people to look strong and put together and in control all the time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 More
It's an
space.
unreasonable expectation.
Very. It
Yeah,
makes having uh, emotions shameful, almost, or being out of control shameful.
yeah.
People won't experience shame if you say, "Oh, I have a big tummy, I have to reduce." Yeah, they don't experience shame. But if you say, "I have a lot of anger I'm sitting with," they experience some shame talking about it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Almost seen as a sign of weakness in our world, right? To feel anything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think there was this other story that I also loved where it was leave my parents out of this. And I
Yes.
think there's this one line that you wrote which said that the protagonist had no opportunity to be a child.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I wonder, right? I'm sure there are many of us adults who didn't have an opportunity to be a child in our environments. And how does this end up, coming out in the here and now in our professional settings or our personal relationships?
Yeah. So often, when parents are emotionally overwhelmed, a child might decide, well, my emotions will only burden them further. So let me take care of it myself. So as an adult, I may not ask for help. Yeah, I may decide that I have to be strong and independent. Or if I was not allowed to play and I was told that you have to achieve all the time, then as an adult, I don't know how to play. Yeah, I don't know how to be close. If a child's attempt for closeness were met with shame, or sometimes a child goes and hugs a parent and the parent says, "Oh, why do you need all these? Why are you so clingy?" Yeah. And the child is judged for wanting affection a certain way, then the child may decide it's safer for me to never want affection. So there's huge difficulty with being close. Yeah. Yeah. So things like that. Yeah. So if we are not allowed our child, so if a child is not allowed to throw tantrums, we say terrible twos, right? We say arguing with parents is a very important developmental task a child needs to learn. So a child learns that I can be autonomous, I can push back. So the child, what we call terrible twos, is actually a very important developmental period for a child. So if a child has been denied that, then the child has doesn't know how to negotiate for the adult won't know how to negotiate for themselves. Yeah, they
Yeah,
don't. That option doesn't exist in their frame.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I wonder, right, if we've not had access to that child for almost 2 or 3 decades, or
Yeah.
even more, how
Yeah.
how does one probably begin reconnecting with that inner child?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a long journey. I think this the for again I would say awareness is the starting point to know to first is to grieve for the loss. Yeah, in the process of growing up, many of us have had gaps. Yeah, and childhoods haven't been perfect. So we have to the child is within us, so we as an adult become the parent to that child. Yeah, so within us we find the nurturing part as well. So developing kinder language for self is the start. Yeah, sometimes I've you may also have come across it in your work. People use harsh language for themselves that they won't use for others. Yeah, so kinder language for self, and then really saying, indulging. So how would you treat a child? Yeah, how would you treat a child? You let the child play. You'll you'll honor the child. You'll laugh with the child. If a child falls down, you'll soothe the child. If a child makes a mistake, you'll say never mind. uh, and so the same permissions you need to give to yourself. Go have some fun, get close to people, express yourself. That's the purpose of a child, to be, to receive love, to express, to explore. And if we can offer ourselves those permissions, we are giving space to the child within us again. So, hanging out with friends without agenda, engaging in a hobby, relaxing, having fun, eating sensory. I mean, engaging in sensory excitements like good food or doing something thrilling. All of that is being a child again.
Yeah, love that. So essentially, reparenting ourselves with that nurturing side that we were probably not given
Mm.
access to, and to give ourselves permission to do those things as an
Yeah.
adult.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think one more story comes to my mind when we spoke about, which was, I think, Not My Circus, Not My Monkeys, wherein many of us as children have been forced to be responsible for
Yeah.
managing emotions of adults around us, right?
Yes.
How does
Yes.
that impact us as we grow up if we've been surrounded by such adults in our early childhood?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so I feel tempted to share that story, and because I think that story is. So this is a person who was a successful leader in an organization, but he didn't apply for a promotion, even though he knew that he would get it. So there's some procrastination over there, and he was very puzzled, saying, "Why am I procrastinating?" And then the exploration led to an exploration of his early experience, and he thought about a scene from his childhood where he was reading a comic under a physics inside a physics book. Yeah, and the brother was saying, "You're a fraud. I will." And then the mother was looking at him admiringly, reading this physics book, but actually inside that is a comic. So he contacted the idea that the mother really put a lot of hopes that this child will grow up and save us. So he couldn't have fun in front of mother, because if he had fun in front of mother, she would get very anxious, saying, "Oh, you are the one who's our savior. If you're having fun, then will you be able to actually save us?" And father was very uninvolved, really not. Really feeling very unfulfilled in his own life. So then he realized another pressure he had taken on, that my success actually reminds my father of his unfulfilled life. So there's a shrinking over there. So these are themes not really talked about in our culture. Like, parents are supposed to love their children and be very proud of their children, but parents are fallible human beings, and parental jealousy exists. Yeah, or maybe the child picks it up in some way with the parents' complete lack of interest in their success. It can be anything that the child picks up something. So this adult, he would not tell his parents how successful he was. He would leave his expensive car and take a public bus, and when he visited parents. So you can see how an early experience, not in his awareness at all, uh, like underplay his success, underplay his wealth, and unconsciously not apply for a promotion that he would easily get. And then the title "Not My Circus, Not My Monkeys" really became that I'm taking responsibility that I don't need to take. Yeah, and they are adults, and while I love them, I don't have to make myself smaller for them. Yeah, so
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think what fascinates me about this story often is that how much of this is non-verbal, right? It
Yes.
was not a father telling the child that you can't be more successful than I am, or a mother saying that all my hopes are pinned on you. Of course, there could be verbal
Yeah.
also, but a
Yes.
lot of this is just sensed as a
Yes.
child in the environment around you and pre-verbal, right?
Yes. Yes. Very much unconscious. Yeah, and
Right.
it takes effort to bring it into conscious awareness. Sometimes it needs another. Sometimes people are act in my life script workshops. I've seen people acting in ways, and when I say, "I see you acting like this," no, that's not how I'm acting. There's such a lack of awareness sometimes when things are very evident as well. Uh, so sometimes we do need support. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And also the cultural conditioning, right? That we can't
Yeah.
really talk bad about parents. They've provided,
Yeah.
especially I think in India, we all are probably layered with that conditioning or guilt
Yeah. Yeah.
that your parents provided everything for you. So how can you say this happened?
Yes, absolutely. And the lack of understanding that you can love a person and be angry with them at the same time. That a person can have been wonderful in one aspect, but really terrible in another aspect. So living with the grace, sometimes it's uh, uh, these are not people have put in black and white categories. Yeah, but the gratitude, the expectation is a very very big aspect of our culture, and that really comes in the way of people owning their feelings. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And I wonder sometimes, right? Because since it is actually what we sense as a child,
yeah,
sometimes it could also be not true, right?
yeah,
Even though
yeah.
say, even though adults around me didn't expect me to step up and do something, but
Mm.
I felt the burden on me and I did that, right?
Yes,
I'm sure those cases are also there. And does
yeah.
it change the healing journey, or it really doesn't matter whether it is factual or imagined?
It doesn't matter. We say the past is created in the present. Right now, my imagination of my childhood is what is impacting me. My parents may have been very loving, but I may have interpreted that as they are smothering and they gave me no freedom. Yeah, they're interfering. I may have interpreted it like that. It is possible. Now, what is the truth? We'll never know. This
Yeah.
may not, yes, but we work with the client's truth and say, if this is your truth, how is it impacting the way you show up today? Do you like it? Do you want to challenge it? Yeah, that's we're not concerned with what actually happened. It's not needed. We don't need to find out. Some things may have happened, like for instance, if a child has been overfed, like an infant is stuffed with food, an infant may physically stop resisting because say that, oh, my resisting is the adult is overpowering. So the body is just this, it'll never come into that person's memory. But they just feel a lack of power in the face of anyone arguing with them. So that's what we need to work with. Sometimes the historical information is more accessible, sometimes it's not. It's okay. We can still work on our healing.
Got it. Got it. So the focus is really how it's impacting us in the here and now and
Yeah.
what we want to do about it.
Yes.
The agency is now with us to say whether we want to address it or live
Yeah.
with it.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
anger against parents is not to punish them or to tell them or to, but to own our experience. Yeah. To honor what we feel because
Yeah.
it's important. We know we don't need to negate our own feelings. We may
True.
not go and hurt anybody in the process. Yeah.
Yeah, because we need to give ourselves permission to do that also, to own
Yes.
our own experience as the truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And one other thing, I think, one last question before we probably go into our rapid fire. This this
Yeah.
question is that, like you said, that this script is not something you do once and it's done and dusted, right? It is
Yeah.
something that you keep unraveling, unfolding, and probably seeing layers after layers to it. And uh, does it happen that we get caught up in these past experiences and remain stuck or stagnant there without really coming back to the here and now? Have you seen that in your practice, and
For
where
people
does that line happen?
people staying stuck in script with very
Yeah.
little result. Oh yeah, I see it quite often. Very, very often. That some people, if you give feedback, it's you're hurting me. There's very little adult available.
Right.
Yeah, so some are really stuck in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah, the dominant ego state is the child ego state, or some are constantly judgmental, never have. So it's amazing how when as we become aware, we realize how little we are in the present. Therefore, the goal is to come more and more into the present, use our adult resources, make our own meaning, challenge cultural conditioning, social conditioning. That's why as people grow older, they go closer to say it's not worth it. It's one life. I really have to be who I am, and it doesn't matter what people think about me. But that comes only when we have reached a certain life stage where it really becomes evident that it doesn't matter. The validation of others is not, I don't need that for my okayness. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe one follow on question here that I have to say that, say there are listeners who have not done the deep work of uncovering their life script or
Yeah.
become really aware of how the past is playing out in the present.
Yeah.
What are some ways that they can probably access their adult resources or faculties more in the present? What is their starting point?
I think if they just slow down and ask some questions, yeah, which is what's going on here? What do I want? Trust that they are okay, trust that the other is okay. Yeah, the being of both people is deserves dignity and respect. What are my emotions? What are my emotions telling me? Is my emotion proportional to this context in the here and now? Yeah. What are my options? These are simple ways to breathe. Breathing brings us into the present. But yes, am I using my grown up resources? Is this my own thinking? Can I own it? Yeah. Um, is my action hurting me or hurting somebody else? Yeah, some questions to ask. Yeah.
Yeah,
So not
yeah,
exhaustive, but this is
of
a
course.
starting point, I'd say. Yeah.
Of course, of course. Yeah, I think for that we'll put the link for School of You for people to reach out to you to do that more
Yes.
in depth one on one work. But thank you, Aruna. I know this is a topic that we can probably go deeper and deeper, and there'll be so much more to uncover. But thank you so much for sharing that. And maybe now is a good time that we jump into a rapid fire.
Sure.
It's not really a rapid fire, so you can take your time. I'm still trying to find the right term for it. But essentially, these are questions that we want to share with our listeners for their resources, right? So,
Yeah.
what are some things that can help them in their self transformation journey?
Yeah.
So, the first question we often ask is, what are three books, movies, podcasts that probably changed your life?
I'm going to say things that I enjoy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's another organization with a very similar name to us, the School of Life. I love their podcasts. I love their writing. I think they make the connection between our histories and the way we show up in the world today in such beautiful language. So I love that very much. I love the movie Tare Zameen Par. Uh, I love the TV show The Office, which really shows the idiosyncrasies and the madness that comes with protecting our ego like that. I think it's hilarious. Uh, I love the movie The Children's Train. I love war movies. I feel it shows how people retain their humanity despite all their challenges. I think that the difficulty of a mother struggle in that movie, The Children's Train, to let go of a child so that the child has better opportunities. And I think some of these really show human struggle so poignantly. Some things that came to my mind.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, things that you enjoyed. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Aruna. The
Yeah.
second question is, what is one non negotiable for you to live your life to the fullest?
I think for me, it is, yeah, to be the master of my own life. I don't want to do things because they're supposed to be done. I feel there are many worlds that exist. And even if the world that I want to belong to doesn't exist, I can create it. Yeah.
Yeah,
So, yeah. So that's for me a non negotiable. This is the
yeah,
way I will live. This is the way I will work. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah.
Calling your terms. Yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
lovely. What are some practices that you usually inculcate in your routine, Aruna, to enhance your mental well being?
I think a gratitude journal. Yeah, I and for me, reading something that's uh, uplifting. Yeah, for me, meeting friends, and I think I need human contact to get energy and strokes. Doing things with people.
Yeah.
And of course, because I'm in the profession, also being in therapy and being in group therapy, all of that also. But if I was not doing it professionally, it's reflection, journaling, and uh, agenda-less contact with people. Yeah, interaction with people is very important for my sanity.
Yeah, love that.
Exercise, of course, there's such a strong connection between physical health and mental health. Yeah, that-
Right. Beautiful.
yeah,
And I know that, the work that you did in Afghati and all the workshops that you put together, even now, there's so much creativity in
yeah.
each of that work, right? So, what are some, routines or practices that actually help you fuel your creativity uh, over your years of professional experience?
I think I draw a lot of inspiration from interdisciplinary work. So I would, when I watch a play, I will see how aspects of that can come into our work. Or when I meet people from a very different field, and uh, yeah, for me, the idea that creativity, mental health, while it involves grieving and accessing intense emotions, but it can also be a poetic, supportive, nurturing, playful, creative process. So for me to get these two, creativity and mental health, together has been very, very interesting. So I keep looking for opportunities for that. Yeah,
Oh, love that.
trying new things, experimenting. I think that's a very big part of my uh, approach to work. Constantly experimenting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Lovely. And one last question, Arna, for you.
Yeah.
One thing that you wish you'd known a few years ago.
Ah, that I was not flawed, that I was uh, a completely okay person as I was, and need not have, that it was okay to speak my mind. Yeah. Yeah. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. You froze for a
Yes.
bit.
No, I can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah. That it's okay for me to be me. Yeah, it's okay for me to I don't have to second guess who I am or what I'm saying. I have a space in this world to be me. Yeah, that's what I would say. I wish I had known earlier.
Wow. Love that. And any last message that you wish I'd asked you or you want to share with our listeners in the podcast, Aruna, that you want them to take away from our conversation today?
I There is a lag. So could you repeat the question?
Sorry, am I audible now?
No, I couldn't hear it.
Okay, 1 second, I'll just check. Okay, it seems to be there. Okay, I think I'm back.
I can hear you now. Yeah.
Yeah. No, the question I had was that is there one final takeaway or anything that you'd like to leave the audience with from our conversation today?
Yeah, I might say I'd be very happy if they read the book. And how do you feel about that? Uh, yeah, to invest in their mental health and invest in it's important. It's as important as physical health. Like physical health needs everyday effort. Every meal needs to be planned. There needs to be steps every day, and similarly, we need time for mental health, which is to think about what's going on, think about relationships, think about our needs, think about our rest, think about what makes us feel fulfilled. It needs time and attention. Yeah,
Yeah. Wonderful.
what I would say.
Thank you, Aruna. Thank you so much for sharing with such generosity and loved all the insights that you shared. Thank you once again for being a part of the show.
Thank you, Shweta. It was a joy speaking to you, and I look forward to more such opportunities. Thank you so much for having me here.
Of course, thank you.